Did you get my message?
I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this afternoon's agenda meeting where we'll be reviewing the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday, November 5th, Election Day.
Yes.
Hopefully our meeting will be over before the results are announced.
It's a heavy agenda.
Heavy agenda. Well, we got a lot under the consent, and then it gets, but you never know, it can just be one item. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Bill Burrow, our city manager, to review those action items. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. Under your consent agenda, your first item would be consider resolution R-24-185, a resolution acknowledging receipt of the corrected financial statements for August 2024 and amending resolution number 10519. And our finance director, Karen Scott, will present.
Good afternoon. As you all know, the monthly financial statements are issued to keep city management and constituents apprised of the financial condition of the city of Hot Springs. Resolution number 10519 was passed on October 15th, 2024, acknowledging receipt of the August 2024 financial statements. For quite some time, we have been experiencing issues with New World ERP platform by Tyler Technologies, and in October, there were multiple outages and program unavailability. The August financial report generated in October contained errors in all of the amounts identified as FY 2023 year-to-date. They included the month of September as well as all of the previous 8 months. So they overstated by 1 month all of the amounts. So that was in those financial statements the board acknowledged. And so you will have attached to your BARF an updated August financial report. And staff is asking you to acknowledge the revised financial statements for August 2024.
Thank you. Any questions for Karen? Karen, Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as we continue to have these, problems with New World, can we look at moving forward with what we need to do to get the right system?
We are absolutely moving forward. I have a template of an RFP for new software, and as soon as we get the budget done next week, that's my highest priority. But it's my fault for not catching it, that the 2023 numbers were wrong.
But we continue to, it's still a software issue, and I appreciate that you're taking time to move forward even as we're completing the budget. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And I do want to point out that the 2024 numbers in that financial statement were correct. It just pulled in an extra month of 23 on the comparison.
Yeah, so the comparisons were all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could, these next several items, resolution R-24-186, R-24-187, R-24-188, and resolution R-24-189 are all resolutions appointing members to commissions and committees. And I believe the board's going to have a special called meeting shortly to interview candidates. So we'll do all four of those at once. Moving on, consider resolution R-24-190, a resolution levying 0 mil of ad valorem taxes for the general fund, and R-24-191 and R-24-192 are the same, levying 0 mils for the fire officer retirement and pension fund, as well as the police officer fire and pension fund. Any questions on the millage? Hearing none, resolution R-23-193, a resolution designating Director Karen Garcia as voting delegate for Hot Springs, Arkansas at the 2024 National League of Cities Annual Business Meeting. That should be R-24, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going back. We'll get that corrected. Thank you.
Is this all right to stay on consent? Anyone have any objection to staying on consent?
Director Garcia.
Discussion.
Director Garcia would be the voting delegate, and Director Beard is listed as first alternate.
Very good.
Next, we have considered Resolution R-24-194, a resolution approving the procurement of a sewer equipment of America Company easement machine with accessories and trailer from River City Hydraulics pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $108,958.93. And our Utilities Director, Monty Ledbetter, will present that item.
Yes, sir, thank you. The city of Hot Springs Utility Sewer Collection Department is requesting approval to purchase a new piece of equipment for, it's an easement machine through the Sourcewell contract 101221-SCA. This easement reel will allow us, the Sewer Collection Division, to access manholes on the gravity sewer mains that are in right-of-ways. Approximately 40% of the city sewer manholes are inaccessible with large vehicles. So this will allow us to access those areas without harming property or causing any property damages or any environmental sensitive areas. The total cost of this machine is $108,958.93 plus applicable taxes, and it was budgeted in 2024 CIP funds.
Any questions on this item? Thank you.
Next, we have considered Resolution R-24-195, a resolution awarding a contract to Kate Incorporated for the Hot Springs Creek Kayak Launch and Trail Project. This is in the amount of $197,250, and Mike Hill, our Assistant City Engineer, will discuss the item. Mike?
Okay. The Hot Springs Creek Kayak Launch Project will create a trail from the end of the Gene Wallace Trailhead Project and go underneath Martin Luther King Expressway to where a kayak launch dock will be built in Hot Springs Creek. The launch dock will allow canoeists and kayaks access to Lake Hamilton. The project included some stream bed stabilization that will help protect the foundations of the bridges carrying the MLK Expressway from Skyr. A grant from Energy is helping to pay for the bank stabilization and for the trail underneath the expressway. This will be the final piece of the greenway along the Hot Springs Creek. The City of Hot Springs received 3 bids, with Kate being the lowest bid at $197,250. The other 2 bidders were Steep Creek and Nolan Construction. A notice of intent to award this contract to Kate was published and no protests were received. The project funding includes an energy grant of $96,082, with the remaining $101,168 coming from the Parks Capital Trail and Trail Improvement account. Are there any questions?
Very good. Any questions of Mike? So this completes from Transportation
For
Depot
the
to...
foreseeable future.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
What would be left in the unforeseeable future?
There are a few people that want to try to get to Packus, but that's
Oh.
very tough terrain. I don't know that we could do it and keep ADA compliance. It would be very difficult. But there are people that want to try it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Next, we have considered Resolution R-24-196, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a 2025 T-Mobile placemaking grant to fund the splash pad at David F. Watkins Memorial Park. And our grant writer, Sarah Delozier, is here to present. Sarah,
Good
welcome.
afternoon. Thank you very
Welcome.
much. We are seeking approval to apply for the T-Mobile $50,000 no-match placemaking grant in 2024. That's due December 31st, 2024, with the grant announcement of awardees expected in March of 25. The grant would address the remaining funding gap for the David F. Watkins Memorial Splash Pad, a project that is estimated in budget of $95,000 to $105,000. Currently, $45,053.43 in cash has been raised by the Parks Avenue Community Association, PACA. $14,358.89 has been donated in equipment that we have in our hot springs storage. And $30,720 has been committed from CDBG funding for allocating of the concrete pad necessary for the splash pad. The David F. Watkins Memorial Splash Pad represents the second phase of a long-term vision to develop and enhance this vital public space within the Park Avenue corridor of Hot Springs. This phase will introduce a free ADA accessible water playground, providing essential recreational opportunities for children and families in a community where affordable aquatic facilities are limited. The project aligns with the broader revitalization efforts aimed at improving public spaces, enhancing walkability, and fostering social interaction in the neighborhood. The splash pad will be built with an estimated project budget of that $95,000 to $105,000, intended to open in late summer of 2025. Over the past several years, the Park Avenue Community Association and the City of Hot Springs Parks and Trails Department have worked closely to advance this project. PACA, as I mentioned, raised those funds, and we've secured those CDBG funds for the construction pad. Despite these efforts, the city was not advanced for the Arkansas Outdoor Recreation Matching Grant through the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism. Anthony Whittington, our Parks Director, was notified of these decision in October of this year. And so then we had this funding gap, and we were looking to address it so that we could be on track to still get it open in '25. In response, we've met together with the 3 members of PACA to explore new grant opportunities and identified this funding alternative. This collaboration has led for us to pursue requesting to submit the application here by the end of this year and hopefully be awarded and announced in March so that we can continue with construction in the spring of this year, so this next year. And I'm open to answering
Any
questions.
questions of Sarah? Any questions? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. This morning I was asked about the splash pad and why had we moved it to the Majestic site. So evidently there was some misinformation somewhere out in the public. So as we move forward this, we need to have some public relations information out to distinguish any misinformation and get everybody on board. And some of these were members of a nonprofit organization that had also been part of this long-term project. And they are, upon hearing, I don't know where that came from, but it's still here. And that's the plan, that they too would be interested in helping in some way.
Awesome. I'll make sure that I let the PACA group know so they can get some public awareness going about that misinformation.
Yeah, I was shocked. But thank you, and thank you for all your hard work.
Of course.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have considered Resolution R-24-197, a resolution approving work order number 230-2419-2 to the master agreement for professional services between the City of Hot Springs and Garver LLC for the rehabilitation of runway 523 at the Hot Springs Memorial Airport in the amount of $46,300. And our airport director, Don Rollett, will present. Don?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This resolution is a work order between the city and Garver for the next phase of the runway 523 rehabilitation. The work order would be covering the construction administration, on-site representative with Garver, and the project closeout for a sum of $46,300. And this cost is covered under the 95-5 grant between the state and the federal.
Any questions of Ron? Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, consider Resolution R-24-198, a resolution authorizing an agreement for at-risk construction management and general contractor services with Hill and Cox Corporation, and Deputy City Manager Denny McFate will present this item. Denny?
Thank you, Mr. Burrows, members of the board. A construction manager at risk is a delivery method which entails a commitment by the construction manager, also known as CM, to deliver a project within a guaranteed maximum price, also known as GMP, which is based on the construction documents and specifications at the time of the GMP plus reasonable fees. A notable benefit of a CMR contract is enhanced control over project costs. The CM can provide more accurate cost projections by engaging in detailed cost estimating and value engineering exercises during the pre-construction phases. Additionally, the CM also provides the direct day-to-day link between the contractors, subcontractors, architects, engineers, and the city regarding various construction projects. The construction manager assures the project is constructed in accordance with the approved plans, records daily construction activities, monitors daily construction progress, administers, evaluates pay requests and changes in work, and work directly with the contractors and project management to resolve any disputes. Individual agreements or work orders will specify costs and conditions for each individual project as tasked and is budgeted by the city and undertaken by the CM. The city advertised a request for statement of qualifications, the SOQ, for construction management services for various future city projects, and proposals were received from 5 companies. The company proposals that were received were from Hill and Cox Corporation of Hot Springs, Baldwin and Shell Construction of Little Rock, Flinco Incorporated of Little Rock, Harrison Construction of Hot Springs, Clark Contractors LLC of Little Rock. Staff reviewed and evaluated the SOQs, and Hill and Cox received the highest rating of the 5 proposals. Therefore, staff is recommending awarding a contract for construction management services for various future city projects to Hill and Cox Corporation. A notice of intent was awarded. The contract to Hill and Cox was published, and no protests were received.
Any questions of Danny? Thank you.
Thank you.
After your consent agenda, you will have a public hearing on vacating and abandoning a closed unnamed alleyway. However, that'll be coming up as part of your new business as well. The first item under your new business is consider Resolution R-24-199, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 107 Barrett Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. And our Chief Building Official, Mike Scott, is here to discuss the item.
Thank you, sir. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant structure at 107 Barrett Street. This is a wood frame shop that contains a single-family apartment. This structure, along with several surrounding properties, is owned by Timothy Corpai of Vassar, Michigan. Mr. Corpai purchased this property on a real estate auction in 2021. This structure is located across the street from 106 Barrett, which the board condemned and the city subsequently had removed in August of this year. ADEQ provisions allow for removal of multiple structures within a same block if a notice of intent is filed with them prior to the removal of the structure. Additionally, an asbestos survey will need to be performed by a licensed professional and the report filed with the ADEQ before the structure will be removed. These conditions will be met and followed following the approval of the board. In June of this year, Neighborhood Services attempted to board and secure the structure at 107 Barrett through a vacant weed lot contractor. However, within days of securing 10 openings, 7 of those boards were removed. The contractor returned and re-secured those 7 openings. At this time, all of those boards have been removed and the structure is wide open once again. Also in July of this year, Neighborhood Services, in cooperation with Solid Waste Department, contracted with H&S Maintenance to clean up and remove the trash and debris from a homeless camp located behind 107 Barrett and that had spread onto 3 other parcels, all of which are owned by Mr. Corpai. This cleanup resulted in a lien of $4,343.86 being placed on this property, and an additional lien of $4,403.85 being placed on the other 3 parcels. It also resulted in the removal of 40.86 tons of material being removed from the camp in its entirety. Notice of condemnation was sent September 17th of 2024, and the green card was returned signed. And based on the condition of the structure, Mr. Corpai's inability or unwillingness to make the repairs to secure and to prevent its occupancy and the requirements set forth in the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code Volume 2, Section 116, as well as the Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code, Section 111, the structure was deemed unsafe for habitation. Therefore, no reasonable alternative, we are recommending that the structure should be raised and removed. This structure is in District 2 and taxes is $524.57 is owed at this time.
Any questions of Mike on this resolution? Director Beard?
Thank you, Mayor. Do we know if anyone is living in this house?
At this time?
Yes.
I don't know. The police would have to answer that question. I mean,
Okay.
they're not supposed to, let's put it that way.
Okay.
It does not have utilities, it does not.
Well, I know they're not supposed to, but with the homeless crisis that we have in the city, I have driven by there and seen people inside. So
Yeah.
I would like to make sure, should this be demolished, that there's no one inside.
We always do that. Contractor
you.
does, and if we suspect there are, we call the police before the contractor starts that morning, and we make sure that the structure is emptied out.
Okay, and then also, can you repeat what you said about, I think it's ADEQ, you've already, the house that you tore down across the street, was
Yes,
it? That was the two, there's two.
Yes, ma'am, it was the
that were
weird-
connected.
Like house, it was that one right across the street. that we
Okay, and
tore
so
down.
then how, tell me what you said about ADEQ.
Yeah, we have to meet certain requirements. We're allowed to do it if we meet those requirements, and one of those requirements is we have to file a notice of intent with them, saying we're going to do one, and it's across the street from the other. And we also additionally have to do an asbestos survey, and we have to file the results of that asbestos survey with the ADEQ prior to doing it. Once we do that, then we're allowed to tear it down.
So with the survey, there's a cost to that. Will that be part of will that be a lien on the property
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
owner?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know how much the asbestos survey
We don't.
is?
We call the company and they come and do it, and based on the size of the structure and so what they suspect, it could be more or less than a certain amount, you know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe your last comments were regarding that taxes of $524 were owed. In our packet, can you include for what, is that 1 year or what time period they are in arrears?
Oddly enough, I've got on there and tried to figure that out if it was 1 year or two, and I cannot figure it out. They just give me a total price of what's owed. It doesn't show that it's up for tax auction, so I'm assuming it's less than 3 years. So, yeah, James Hardage actually tried to help me do that too, and we both were like, well, all we can tell you is this. But that's what I would like to have known too. Is it 3 years? Is it up for auction? You know, will it-
Yeah, 2
and it
years
wouldn't tell
and
me, so I
going
assume
into the
it's
third
not.
year? Yeah.
It's not 3 years at this time.
So, okay, so that's not available online,
Right.
but.
It seems to be if it's up for tax auction, because we've seen that before.
Right.
And it says it's up for that. And this one did not say that. It just says total taxes owed at this time or this much.
Can we get that information from tax collector?
We tried it.
Call over
I
there.
mean, maybe if we called over there, because we looked on the county's website and we looked on the state's website.
Probably have to call.
Probably have to call to get it, you know, if
Yeah.
we want to know exactly how many years.
Let's see if we can do that.
Okay.
Put that in the packet.
Yeah, we can do that.
Any additional questions?
If the survey and the report does reveal that there's asbestos, that would also need to be abated before the structure can.
Yeah, and we
come
can,
down.
we can bid that out as part of the bid, or we can bid it out separately.
Also be a lien on the property.
Yes. Mhm.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. If when you have the asbestos survey completed, if they do come back with, positive signs of asbestos, do we have any way to maybe yellow tape that area so that nobody does inhabit that property? And this is assuming that this is going to be condemned and tore down.
Right.
But just to prevent, anybody from entering that facility to maybe get some type of, chemical damage to their body? Are we within
We've
any kind
tried
of right to do that?
We've tried
Tear
that.
down the
Boarding it up,
boards?
we boarded it up and they screw it shut, and we've tried that, and they just keep taking them off, so, I mean, we can do what we can do, I mean. you know.
Would, placing the results of the survey on the property too, can we do that?
We can
I mean,
we
then
can
there's
place
some kind of
signage on
notice.
it, but I mean, we already
Right.
placed signage on it saying it's unsafe for
Right.
habitation.
Right,
I mean, we have placards on the buildings.
right.
But
Okay.
Typically, when we get down that far, I know there's, that 30 days, but during that assessment, once we know that there's asbestos there, we're contacting a contractor,
Yeah.
and, it's not gonna
Yeah.
sit there for months, so it's gonna get taken down, mitigated.
Any additional? Director Beard?
Yes, thank you. I would like to know more about the requirements for two houses on the same street to be taken down from ADEQ. Can that be put in the packet as well?
I believe we put the statement that I put in there, it's in the packet.
We'll get the
Yeah.
the regulation on that
Yeah.
for you.
Okay, thank you.
And typically, a house like this doesn't have asbestos in it. It's just a requirement of ADEQ. So, I mean, you know, I've seen the house. It's less than 50% likely that there's any asbestos in the house. It's a lot of wood. It doesn't have the asbestos siding that we all know and look for. It doesn't have the tile that we all know and, you know, that's asbestos. It doesn't have those items, but it's just a requirement that we must do this if we do 2 houses in the same block. So
Well,
our
thank you.
hope is it comes back, you know, nothing.
Thank you. Oh, Director Dobbs-Smith?
I understood you to say that you got the green card returned, but have you had any conversation with the property owner?
No, we have not.
Not at all.
No.
So we don't know if he was complicit in this garbage dump that was there, or if this was trespassers.
He's been notified of all the stuff prior to us cleaning the property and everything.
Yeah.
He's had several notifications.
We know that he acquired several parcels during a tax sale. He's the owner of a lot of the property in that particular area, including across the street, the one that we took down.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Next item is consider resolution R-24-200, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 133 Chapel Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. And again, Mike.
Thank you. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant structure at 133 Chapel Street. This is a 3-story multifamily residence. The structure, along with several surrounding properties, is owned by Monolith Properties Corporation. According to the Arkansas Secretary of State, Ms. Joanne Privatello is both the president and registered agent for Monolith Properties, which has owned the property since 2017. In October of 21, Neighborhood Services issued a vacant structure notice to remove violations to the Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code. Those violations included damage and collapsing roofing, missing and damaged soffit and fascia, damage and missing stair treads on the exterior stairs, and damage and missing windows. Then again, in September of 22, Neighborhood Services inspectors issued a vacant structure notice to secure 24 openings, including all windows and doors on the lower levels. In July of last year, Neighborhood Services once again issued a vacant structure notice to repair the damage and collapsing roofing, missing soffit fascia, damage and missing stair treads and exterior treads, and damage and missing windows. Also to repair an open floor that had no subflooring and open floor joists which access through the open window could have led to serious personal injury. The following August, Neighborhood Services Manager James Hardage issued a citation to appear in court. Ms. Privatello as the registered agent for Monolith Properties for failure to comply with the Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code. In March of this year, that court was resolved with Ms. Privatello entering a no contest plea and received fines of $350, including court cost. On September 12th, Neighborhood Services mailed a consideration of notice of condemnation to the owner at their address on record, and Ms. Privatello did sign for certified notice, and the green card was returned to Neighborhood Services. Having inspected the structure and based on the requirements set forth in the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, as well as the Hot Springs Property Maintenance Code, the structure was deemed unsafe for habitation because of the extensive structural damage due to the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make the repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, we recommend that the structure should be raised and removed. This property is in District 1 and the taxes is 0.
Any questions of Mike on this resolution? Director Garcia?
Regarding this property owners, can you also include in our packet the other condemned properties at this time that this owner has, and the liens that we currently have?
We talking about past properties?
In current, yeah, ones that we have already condemned.
Okay.
And that we have had liens on, or have liens on. And is this a property that when, after it's raised, is that the time that it would be considered for foreclosure on liens?
It could be, yes.
But it would not be a part of this?
Of this action? No.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mike, there are other structures there on Chapel Street. What's,
They're all owned by Monolith Properties.
and what's their status? They're fine?
Honestly, they're in really bad shape. but we're having to eat this elephant one leg at a time. We've tore down one on Chapel already.
Right.
Yeah. And I believe they came in and paid that lien. I believe they did, didn't they?
Was
Did
that,
they pay that lien, James? I think they may have. Yes.
Director Beard?
was the Chapel Street the one torn down? Was that this year as well?
No, it wasn't this year. It was last
It was
year, the
last
year
year.
before. Yeah, it's been more than a year. Yes, ma'am.
Mike, was this one a fire? At this
No, this
location?
wasn't the fire. The fire one was the one that we tore down prior.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Next, consider Resolution R-24-201, a resolution approving the application of Jason Bennett doing business as Good Times Taxi for a taxi cab service transportation permit. And our city clerk, Harmony Morrissey, will discuss the item.
Thank you. The applicant is Mr. Jason Bennett, who owns JJ's Petty Cabs. He submitted his application for a taxi cab permit on August 8th. The Transportation Advisory Committee held a public hearing on October 9th. They voted 4-1 to recommend that the board approve Mr. Bennett's application for a taxi permit to license up to 6 vehicles. The board now shall review his application and can review the recording of the TAC hearing. All of those will be included in your packet. And then at next week's business meeting, the board will have the opportunity to hear any interested persons, after which the decision on the application would either be granted in part, denied in part, granted as modified, or denied by resolution of the board. In making that determination, the board shall consider the same standards and factors as the hearing officers, which are set out in the code, and that will be linked in your meeting packet. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this, I may have it mixed up with something else, but was this one also in this request or a similar request of this person requesting involved in a lawsuit?
Yes, so a little bit more of the timeline. Mr. Bennett had applied for a charter permit in March, and in between the time of his application and that came before the board, he did receive a criminal citation for operating a limousine without a permit. And so, as you recall, the board tabled that discussion for quite some time. It was on August 6th or 7th, I believe, that the board actually denied that application. He did have an October court date, and so on October 3rd, he was found not guilty of violating the transportation code for operating that limo without a permit. So the following day is when he made application for a taxi permit. And that's what's before you today.
Can we have included that information? Is that in the packet?
Yes, ma'am. It's in
about
the
that,
packet. Yes, ma'am.
court proceedings?
Yes,
Thank you.
Director Beard.
So I just want to be clear, he was given a ticket for operating the limousine without a permit, but then he went to court and found not guilty?
Correct.
Well, then, should he had been issued the ticket in the first place? Or is that something we should ask the police?
I don't understand. He was
Well-
issued a citation. You're not issued a citation after you're found guilty. You're issued a citation, and then you're afforded an opportunity to cross-examine your accusers to determine whether or not you were guilty of that citation.
Right, so the ticket, or help me understand, because I might not understand it right, but he was given a citation for not having a permit. So while he's operating the limousine without a permit, I guess he was asked maybe by the police officer that gave him the citation, and he is either to present it or not present it. So maybe he had it and it wasn't in his possession, or he was just.
Right.
like-
So no, ma'am, he did not have a permit. The issue was whether or not he was operating as a vehicle for hire. If you're operating as a vehicle for hire, you must do so under a permit. The citation was issued by the police department based on eyewitnesses. At the hearing before the district court judge, which had been continued multiple times, they simply lost their witnesses along the way, so there was no way to make the case against him in court.
Well, anyone get to question the witnesses and see why they were lost along the way?
They were here. They spoke at your meeting.
Oh, I wonder what happened to them.
Well, I don't know.
So the charter service is no longer on the table.
Correct.
And so we're going from a charter service to a taxi,
Now he is,
and what, the requirements are different for
Somewhat
taxi?
different. You have several categories under your transportation code: sightseeing, charter, taxi, specialty vehicles. Yeah.
Is the taxi, I know we have taxi stands, so those are just all shared use. Whoever has a taxi can be there, right?
They have a permit.
Permit, yeah. All right, Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I think you had some of my questions. I was trying to allude to what particular type of permit he's going to be seeking here. Would this include the continuation of maybe utilizing the limousine, except in this case with the permit, or would his taxi service include regular cars? Can that information be included in our packet too?
Yes.
Certainly. His application is for jumbo, is it not?
his application indicates that he would be seeking a permit that would allow him to license 6 vehicles. One of those vehicles is the Lincoln Town Car that he was driving when he was cited for operating the limo without a permit. It's my understanding, and he will be here to speak to this, but it's my understanding that he is planning on acquiring some additional vehicles. Up to that number of 6 is what he's requesting.
So you'll learn more about this next week, of course, but a permit is the umbrella under which you can license vehicles. And so he's stating that he may have multiple vehicles that he ultimately wants to license, but he does not, under our current code, he does not have to present those in order to receive a permit.
Director Garcia?
In the packet, can it be included any complaints the city's had regarding the pedicabs and what type of category the pedicabs are currently licensed? Does the application for this taxi service of up to 6 include financial reports? If not, can the owner provide financial reports in the packet?
Is that a requirement?
The financials would not be a requirement. I would defer to the city attorney on this. If you would like to entertain a condition upon which you would grant the permit, I think that would be possibly the way to go about asking him for any kind of financial information. The requirements for the permit are set out in the code, and that will be linked in your packet.
Is that I mean, I know that having served on the Transportation Committee in the past, there were people that came to those hearings, and then we heard from, we were provided or not provided information that the insurance and the funding to do all of this was viable or not viable from a particular applicant. But I didn't remember if that was part of the application or if they willingly provided that.
It was probably of their own volition. Some of you may recall years and years ago, our transportation code limited the number of permits for various types of vehicles, and that was based on a need. And so that requirement was removed a long time ago, mid-90s. So that's no longer listed as a criteria for making your decision. As the board knows, there is one taxi company in town currently, and you recently made decisions on their rates, their zones, and that sort of thing. All of which I'm sure would be better discussed at your business meeting.
But all that'll be in our packet too.
It's a thick packet.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And by all means, as you all know, maybe it wasn't listed in the litany of options that you have in your packet. The other option that you have is you can always table it if you think you need other information, or if you want to seek more information from, other sources.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that before I vote, I do have adequate information, because this has been on a long journey in trying to determine the previous request. And then we heard witnesses that spoke here that were not, as I find out, at the court proceedings. So if that just leaves more questions to make sure I have adequate information, if that was the only reason that the case ended.
Yeah, this, a traffic citation, a violation of your ordinance or whatever, it's still the same level of proof required as a felony. It's got to be beyond a reasonable doubt, not a preponderance of the evidence, which is what you all deal with at this level.
Right. I've also, and that's why I would like if the city's had, because I've received some from downtown comments, criticisms and complaints regarding the pedicabs. So I would like to have that included because I say they need to let that be known back to our city department, so that can be addressed with the permit holder.
Very good. Any further questions? Thank you.
Next is consider resolution R 24-202, a resolution adopting a budget for the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas for the year 2025 and for other purposes. Karen, I'll do this one. Arkansas law states that the city manager shall prepare the municipal budget annually and submit that to the board of directors for your approval or disapproval, and be responsible for its administration after adoption. The city manager has submitted a proposed budget to the Hot Springs Board of Directors for your consideration. State law provides further that the governing body of the city shall each year adopt a budget for the operation of the city. It's the opinion of city staff that the schedules and exhibits of financial information, which will be attached to your proposed resolution, indicate predicted revenues and expenditures which may be anticipated by the city of Hot Springs during the upcoming calendar year, and that they are as accurate as possible for budgetary purposes. The proposed resolution adopts the 2025 budget at the major expense category level by fund in accordance with our financial policies. The budget document further sets the staffing levels for all full-time and part-time positions. I will say that there were some things brought up during the work session that Karen and I did go back and were able to include those in the budget. We're still working through some of that, but right now it looks like we're going to be bringing you a budget that will have a fund balance at the end of the year of somewhere around $600,000 to $700,000. So it's a good budget. It takes care of a lot of your goals that you've set, and we're excited to present that to you next Tuesday night. And appreciate everyone's work that helped bring that together.
Very good. Any questions of our city manager? Director Dobbs Smith.
Do the corrections that were made to the financial statements impact your budgeting?
They did not. The 24 numbers that we had were accurate. It was just a comparison against 23, so it did not affect the budget.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good question.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Bill.
Yes, sir. And your only ordinance of the evening is ordinance O-2434, an ordinance vacating, abandoning, and closing an unnamed alleyway located in Block 14 of El Dorado, whichever way you want to go, potato, El Dorado subdivision in Hot Springs, Garland County, Arkansas. And again, Harmony will present.
We are in Arkansas.
Okay, so the petitioners are all from the same family who together own the entirety of Block 14 of El Dorado subdivision. This block has a 12-foot wide unnamed alleyway that runs through the middle of it. So the petitioners have filed the petition to vacate this public right-of-way. A little bit better picture right there. Neither staff nor utility providers have filed any objections with the vacation. The required notice of the public hearing was published in the Sentinel Record, and all other statutory requirements have been met. If the board chooses to vacate this area, it would result in the right-of-way being split down the center line, with each adjacent property owner gaining 6 feet of property to the center line of the current right-of-way. Happy to answer any questions you might have, and the map shows the block 14 with the right-of-way down the center.
Any questions of Ms., yeah, Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Harmony, are the property owners both in agreement to continue on with
Yes.
the changes to the alleyway?
Yes, all of the property owners that you see listed here are in the Mutter family, and they've all signed the petition together, so they are all in agreement.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, that completes our review of the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday evening, right here at City Hall on November 5th at 6 p.m. We do have a special call meeting immediately following the agenda meeting, so stay close. We'll alter our technology a little bit and get the meeting started.